I hope you're doing well. This is macro areas of data productivity. This is a very important topic because success is about attacking the problem at the right angle and from the right perspective. What I want you to think of is perspective is like coming into the atmosphere. If you come in too steep of an entry angle, you're going to burn out and get consumed. But if you come in too shallow of an entry angle and you end up bouncing off the atmosphere and you go into space. The right entry angle often generates initial resistance, so there's strong vibrations, shaking. If the system is shaking and it seems like it's getting worse before it's getting better, you know you're in the right place. And eventually you break through and you penetrate the core. And by the way, this is not only valid for problems. So this is something that, as a consultant, you face all the time as you're trying to, implement change in different companies. But it's also valid for opportunities. Opportunities, if you don't come at it from the right perspective, from the right angle, you're not going to see the opportunity. And that's why so many big companies have missed amazing opportunities, because they're not coming at it from the right angle. And what is the right angle? In AI for business, the right angle is having a data mindset. So data is a way to look at things. So I want you guys to learn in this course how to attack problems and opportunities by immediately reverting to kind of a data mindset and starting basically with these 4 pillars, if you will. If you bring in these 4 pillars as you attack a problem or as you attack any opportunities, I guarantee you that you're going to be basically better off than 95% of the population out there, because you're going to have a very different angle. So let's go with the first one. So the first thing you have to identify is the data competition arena, because context is everything. You need to know what data you're fighting for. There are 16 areas of, 16 battlegrounds or 16 macro areas of data productivity, and they are growing. There's new areas getting added, and you're gonna see, there are 4 more that are coming online very soon, and more will be added in the future. But if you don't know where you're competing, you don't know what context you're in. And I'm gonna give you an example of that. But there's home, the office, Internet of Things, Internet of Bodies, telecom, weather, transportation, etc. So that's the first thing that you're going to have to determine. What is the competition arena? The reason why this is important is the competition arena defines your competitive skill set. So if you look at the pillar number 2, the example here is with Apple. So Apple in the home data competition arena is competing versus Google and Alexa, other home speakers that are available in the market. In the content space, the Apple TV Plus that came out is competing against Netflix and Disney Plus. And this is a very different space and a very different competition arena. In the telecom hardware, so basically the actual smartphone, it's competing, the iPhone is competing versus the Samsung smartphones and versus the Huawei smartphones, etc. And then in the telecom software arena, it's competing against Android, and now I think Huawei is actually going to come out with its own operating system. But that's where iOS comes in, and they're competing against those operating systems. So as you can see, Apple has very different content arenas and different data competition spaces, where it's actually performing very differently. I could tell you, for example, that in the content space, Netflix and Disney Plus are killing Apple. In the home, Google and Alexa are killing Apple. So it's doing great on handsets, and great is also relative, because it's not selling more, but it's making more money off of each handset than Samsung and Huawei, because it's going for a premium market. But yeah, don't think that just because Apple is a great brand that it basically does well in every single data competition arena that it participates in. In fact, right now, I would venture to say that it's having problems getting into the home in general. But we're going to talk about that more throughout the course. So number 3, the data competition arena that you picked defines your hero position. So the hero position is a great, way to look at any data competition arena is who are the biggest villains in this data arena? What are some of the biggest issues? You always have to come, if you come at it with the mindset of how can I resolve my customer's biggest issues, you're always going to be very successful. And the bigger the social problems tackled, the more powerful your hero solution is. So if you're talking about, for example, Internet of Bodies, and you're talking about the, food consumption, and you see some of the stats that most people there's a large percentage of the population that is obese, and there's problems with cholesterol, and there's problems with all sorts of health problems related to obesity. Well, if your product, that's the villain. That's the villain of this data arena. And if your product tackles that and figures out a way to solve that and help people reduce their obesity, reduce their cholesterol, etc., that's the hero position. That's the hero position of the data competition arena. It normally is an aspirational position. Normally, in many cases, you never get there. You never fully solve the problem. But just the fact that you're chipping away at it makes a huge difference to the consumer. They see your intent, they buy your product. And finally, how to measure success. Now that you have the heroes, the hero position and the villain, so basically what the problem is and where you want to go, that creates an arc, which is basically your hero's journey. And that's number 4, where you basically now know what's the journey that your product needs to take from the actual problem to the solution. And that's how you determine your KPIs, that's how you measure success, etc. So these are some of the areas of macro areas of data productivity. The home, the office, food, agriculture, transportation and logistics, telecommunication, health, Internet of Things, industrial Internet of Things, Internet of Bodies. There's a new one called Internet of Services. I don't know if that name is going to stick, but it's basically all the services that we, all the apps and the services that we get through apps and things like that. Weather, e-government, Internet of Minds. Again, I don't know if that one's going to stick, but it's everything that we consume, that we learn. Education, this course falls under Internet of Minds. And, think about it. There are going to be tools that help you measure progress and consumption and different KPIs in each of these macro areas of data productivity. So if you think about Internet of Minds and the content you consume and the books you read and the movies you watch, etc., well, it's not only about the volume, when you do it, how you consume, but it's what you're consuming, what categories. So what percentage of all the videos that you're looking at, how do they break down? How many are comedy related? How many are self-development? How many are entertainment and pure entertainment? How many are music, etc.? And we're gonna begin having stats on pretty much everything. So the number 15 is social interaction on the physical plane, 16 social interaction on the digital plane, and 17 social interaction on the VR plane. That's a new one that's coming up. And as VR headsets become widely available, then we're going to be looking at that, a lot of data from there, and there's going to be a lot of competition, a new competition arena that's going to be formed. And Oculus from Facebook is going to be battling it out with all the other headsets that are going to become available, and there's going to be a lot of headsets, and maybe there's going to be a Samsung headset and an Apple headset and a Google headset and an Amazon headset, etc. DNA, CRISPR, gene mutation, all this bioengineering is a huge area for data. Nanobots, nanites also, but the ones that are in orange are a little bit more into the future. That they're not here already, as the other 16 are already here, and you can already compete in those areas. The four last ones are starting to become available. Quantum, space logistics, there's a lot of new ones that are going to come up. So this list is definitely not an exhaustive list, and it's going to continue to grow over time. So let's go to the goal of this course is to help you integrate the trinity of digital, data, and AI into a cohesive business strategy. So we want to make sure that it's business scenario driven, that you make use of emerging technologies and data macro areas. That the goal really is to take you 10 to 15 years into the future, so we can figure out what steps need to be taken today. If we understand how human behaviors will change, we can see the future. And at the end of the day, one of the main goals is, if you can intelligently talk about the possibilities and build different scenarios of how technology will unfold and how people's behaviors will be impacted, that will help you close that deal, get that interview, land that contract. That's half the battle. And then obviously, we're building your AI muscle and your AI flexibility. And so we're going to put you also in the shoes of different CEOs and how they deal with AI opportunities and threats. In the case, for example, of Apple, we could talk about what Tim Cook, the current CEO, needs to do in order to attack Apple's vulnerabilities in terms of the data in the home, et cetera, et cetera. Should they buy, Apple can make a lot of decisions. Should they buy IKEA and put different sensors in all the different furniture pieces and start selling Apple IKEA furniture? And where every chair has a sensor and every couch has a sensor, and now you can get couch potato time. So imagine, just like you get screen time now on your phone, you would get couch potato time. So you basically, your phone is telling you how many hours you spend per week watching TV. Your bed would be telling you all sorts of data, how you slept, how much time you slept, if you tossed and turned. So, Apple could do that tomorrow. They have enough cash to buy IKEA. They could go ahead and do that and put sensors on everything. But they could also buy another brand. For example, Samsung and LG are very strong in all the kitchen appliance space. And, Apple could come in and buy like a competitor. For example, Whirlpool. Whirlpool is a very large competitor, but it's not one of the leading brands, but it's number 3, 3 or 4. So after Samsung and LG, so Apple could come in, buy Whirlpool, put sensors on dishwashers, refrigerators, toasters, ovens, machine dishwashing, washer dryers, etc., and very quickly be able to have global production of basically Apple kitchen appliances. Now, is that faster or slower than building your own? I think it's faster, because you take an existing product that already has distribution, that already has presence, a brand, but at the same time, sometimes it's easier to start from scratch. So these are some of the decisions that once you define the data competitive arena, and once you figure out the hero position, and once you figure out what's the hero's journey, these are some of the decisions that as a CEO you will have to do. All right? So good luck, and let's go to the next video lecture.